So let's take a look at what the Cowboys are looking at in terms of free agents. We'll start at the quarterback position. Zach Dysert, he's a free agent.
And I think I'm still going to maintain that this is the best backup quarterback on the Cowboys roster. I will remain, I guess, the Zach Dysert truther on the staff here. I think had he not been hurt.
Hold on. Yeah. When have we ever said that?
I think I said that when they signed him, and I wanted him to be the actual backup over Kellen Moore before Cooper Rush became, actual quality.
Wait,
backup.
so are you saying Zach Dysert better backup than Cooper Rush?
Yeah, I am saying that.
Wow, there it is.
I've seen both of them play quite a bit from their time at Mac schools, and Zach Dysert's a better quarterback. Injuries have been a factor there. He was on IR all year, but the Cowboys didn't release him outright, which they could have done when he first went down. They kept him all year on IR. He's a restricted free agent. He'll be back, and he'll at least compete and push Cooper Rush for the backup job.
All right, in the backfield as well, Keith Smith is a restricted free agent this year too.
I mean, I would imagine that Keith Smith decides to return here, because why wouldn't he return? Like, he's been the Cowboys fullback, and he's done a very good job of that. I'll be surprised if he's not back in the same role on a very cheap contract. Again, restricted free agents means that they don't really have the same rights to go out and explore with other teams. Other teams can make deals, but Cowboys can offer or get a pick back depending on what tag they give them.
Tough position to garner a lot of interest in free agency. Anyway, sticking in the backfield, Alfred Morris is an unrestricted free agent this year. Tom, I don't know what the Cowboys are going to do here. You could maybe even see the Cowboys draft a running back.
I actually would like the Cowboys to draft a halfback, and I think that you frankly, as nice as Alfred Morris was, would you prefer Alfred Morris or Rod Smith, Brett?
I, toward the end of the year, was more on the Rod Smith bandwagon than Alfred Morris.
Could not agree more.
I thought Alfred Morris did do a good job.
He did do a good job
in the role, though.
Look, he was fine for the role he needed to play as a nice backup halfback, but we saw that Rod Smith can be the backup. Rod Smith offers more in the passing game and on special teams. If the Cowboys go out and get somebody else, I think the answer is you spend a latest round pick on a guy that can be a true scat back.
Sure.
A undersized back to kind of truly fill the Lance Dunbar role, which the Cowboys no longer have one of those on the roster.
Yeah, and typically a good down and distance type of guy that can get Ezekiel Elliott off the field for a couple of snaps a game.
Exactly.
All right, let's go to Brice Butler. Seeing a comment here from Maria saying keep Brice Butler. Tommy's an unrestricted free agent. He does seem to have that chemistry with Dak, which is kind of strange.
It was very weird. For whatever reason, Dak and Brice always seem to be on the same page in a way that Dez wasn't with Dak, in a way with, well, in terms of actually catching the football, that Terrence Williams never was able to do for the Cowboys. Butler is a free agent, and I understand why people want him back, and I think in a nice, perfect world, you would totally bring back Brice Butler. But unless you cut Dez Bryant, how are you going to upgrade the receiving core because maybe you cut Cole Beasley, which I think is an option. We'll discuss more on that on future Cowboys shows. Terrence Williams, because of his contract, is more or less stuck with the Cowboys for next year. So if you keep Dez, which I think is what's going to happen.
Maybe it's the other way around.
You keep T-Will. You keep Switzer for sure. You'd like to keep Noah Brown as your sixth receiver, because I know the staff is high on him.
Blocking back, or blocking receiver.
And you also want to add another receiver in the draft. I think at that point it becomes, well, sorry, Brice, we're going to go out and spend a higher pick on somebody, and we'll let you leave.
Let's get into it here. A couple of comments here. Philip Nichols, bring in Sammy Watkins, and Antonio May saying Jarvis Landry. Tom, in terms of the wide receiver free agency outlook, two questions. One, are any of those guys options? But two, do the Cowboys really have the cap flexibility to go after a big name receiver like a Landry or a Watkins?
Yes and no, I think is the end question here, because if you're going to cut Dez Bryant, you can save up to $8 million and maybe a little bit more, which does give you some flexibility. But my big overall concern is, okay, are you going to be able to afford a Sammy Watkins, a Jarvis Landry, an Allen Robinson, whoever you think is the top receiver in this year's class, at $8 million? And honestly, probably not. Like, Jarvis Landry is going to get paid. He'd be a great fit with Dak, but I don't know if you want to pay a slot guy that much when you just spent a fourth-round pick on one in Ryan Switzer. Sammy Watkins, who I continue to like, actually wasn't all that productive this year outside of touchdowns.
Sure.
So maybe you don't go Watkins, but he's got an injury history. Allen Robinson coming off the injury. So I think what the Cowboys are ultimately going to decide here is they're going to try and keep Dez at what he is, maybe try and get him to take a pay cut, which probably isn't going to happen. But I think they'll decide that, look, the $8 million we can save with Dez is not enough to upgrade the receiving core in the way we need to do it.
So a lot of likes coming through on the reaction poll for Brice Butler. people want to keep him around. Sounds good. Let's take a look at the offensive line now, Tom. Jonathan Cooper, the left guard, is a free agent, unrestricted free agent. What do you think the Cowboys do with Cooper after picking him up last year?
I think that Cooper was fine at the left guard role, and maybe he wasn't as good as the guys they've had in the past, but he should be relatively cheap. The good news is for Cooper, folks, is he did go down in Week 17, but he's fine. There was no serious knee injury, so he's going to be okay. I would imagine
it looked ugly too.
It did look bad. I think it was more fear of, oh my God, I actually really hurt myself here. I think you'll see the Cowboys try and bring back Cooper on a relatively cheap contract, because I don't think he'll be that expensive, because frankly, I think playing with the rest of that offensive line makes him look better than he actually is. He was clearly better than Chaz Green. He was better than another guy we'll talk about here in just a second, but I would not be opposed to the Cowboys looking into upgrading the left guard spot. The biggest issue, Brett, you cannot invest another high pick per se, like a first, second round pick, or spend a lot of money when you're going to have it tied up with Frederick and Martin and Smith. And Leo Collins, too. You can't just keep throwing first-round picks at one spot.
Two other free agents on that offensive line. Next one is Joe Looney. Played only 94 snaps, but for the most part was the top backup on the interior.
If you want to bring him back, cool, go for it. I think this could be an example of, this is a guy that you could see the Cowboys re-sign for limited to no guaranteed money, draft somebody in the later rounds, too, and let he and Looney kind of compete for that backup guard spot. Looney's nice because he can play center too, but I mean, there's a reason he is a cheap backup offensive lineman. He's not a guy you want playing real snaps.
Quick comment coming from Terrence saying we need a stud left tackle. Well, I think we have a stud left tackle.
Why are we still? No, hold on, Brett. Why are we still doing this? Why are we?
Sorry, Terrence. I was going to try and move on, but Tom's going to rant now.
Isn't a great left tackle. If you want to get more depth, awesome. But Tyron Smith, when he plays, is fantastic, and you can tell the difference between when he's on the field and when he's off the field.
All right, so his backup, Byron Bell, or one of his backups, Byron Bell, is an unrestricted free agent.
He's got to go. Like swing tackle, I think is often overlooked, but it is a huge need right now for the Dallas Cowboys, because we saw Byron Bell and Chaz Green get abused all year long. Chaz Green, I think, almost broke Dak Prescott at one point last year with the way he had played, because it really hurt Dak Prescott with his on-the-field abilities, because he didn't look comfortable when Chaz Green was getting destroyed and without Tyron Smith. So Byron Bell was better than Chaz Green, but frankly, not by much. They were both graded out as two of the worst tackles in the NFL. All
right, Terrence coming back saying Tyron is a beast, so maybe he is on.
All right, we're on the same page. Maybe he meant backup.
We're good, Terrence. We appreciate the comments. We appreciate all the comments flowing through. We'll get to some more as we go along. I am Brett Scott. This is Tom Downey. Follow him on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney. Let's take a look at the free agents on defense. We start with really the Cowboys' top defender of the year,
the big boy,
DeMarcus Lawrence.
He is going to get paid, and if you're Jerry Jones, you got to say, all right, here's the checkbook. Let's sign a big old contract with a lot of guaranteed money to the war daddy that he wanted to find so badly is on the roster. It finally became the guy I think we were hoping we would see last year before the suspension and before the back injury. Now he's emerged. You got to find a way to keep DeMarcus Lawrence. Worst case scenario, if you're the Cowboys, you are franchise tagging him, even though it's going to be pricey.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him doing that. It's going to be pricey though, and just with the Cowboys, they got to pay Martin too.
Yeah,
it's going to be tight if you want to go and try and sign anybody else.
It is.
I think in the secondary, you're pretty much just going to bank on the youth that you got there. You got to keep developing them.
I mean, you're looking at a $15 million a year for DeMarcus Lawrence,
yep.
And I think maybe the Melvin Ingram contract is what you'll see them end up giving him, but he is going to get paid a significant amount of money. You're looking, maybe the Everson Griffin contract is a good baseline too. 14, 15 million. That's what he's going to ask for.
Yeah.
Don't give him Olivier Vernon money, which kind of helped ruin the defensive end market, where it's 17 mil per year. But I think you can get him under that.
Well, I think you could be looking at the franchise tag situation after the year he just had. Let's take a look at another free agent on the defensive line, and that's David Irving. He missed the last few games with a concussion. Seems kind of serious, possibly.
Yeah.
He is a restricted free agent. Tom, what's kind of his contract situation, since it's a little bit different?
Yeah, so when we talk about restricted free agency, what we mean is that these players can't just go sign with whomever they want. They are restricted. What you'll see the Cowboys do is that there are tenders involved, and there are varying levels of tenders. There's the original draft tender, which for Irving is actually unrestricted free agent. There's a second-round tender and a first-round tender. And of course, the higher up you get, the more money that is spent and given towards that player. So when it comes to David Irving, restricted free agency, the Cowboys will tender him either first or second round. If a team offers Irving another contract, the Cowboys can match that or get that pick in exchange. And I wouldn't be totally surprised, Brett. I wouldn't be all that surprised if the Cowboys gave Irving maybe a second-round tender, and if someone gives him a big contract, maybe they just take that second-round pick. Because Irving next year is going to be unrestricted, and he's going to be really expensive. So, and you're going to invest a lot of money in Zach Martin, as you said, and DeMarcus Lawrence. It is going to be a little tight to give Irving all that money for a guy who has had injury past and suspension problems.
I've seen a lot of great comments coming in. We're going to talk draft. We're going to talk free agency. Tom, sticking on the defensive line, Tim does have a quick question regarding Randy Gregory.
I would just assume that Gregory's not going to come back, and if he does, cool. That's a very nice boost there. I don't know if we're going to see Gregory come back at any point.
Quick reaction poll in terms of top free agent priority. Tom, what are you thinking here? I think it's got to be DeMarcus Lawrence,
It's
right?
DeMarcus Lawrence without a doubt. He has been so fantastic this year. He became the dynamic edge rusher the Cowboys needed. You have to bring him back no matter what.
That's right. We're going to stick on the defensive line here in terms of free agency. Stephen Paez is next up.
Yeah, didn't retire. Remember that? Like he announced retirement. The Cowboys were like, no, don't retire quite yet. We'll just put you on IR and try and convince you to come back next year. I don't know if we're going to see that happen, but I wanted to include him anyway.
Sneaking him in on
I'm
me a little
saying
bit.
there's a chance. Yeah, I did.
All right, let's go to Brian Price next. He's got an exclusive rights free agent deal. Tom, explain what the exclusive rights one is.
I think here what we mean with Brian Price is, in particular here, with exclusive rights, it means basically the Cowboys say, hey, here's your contract, either sign it or don't play football next year. So when it comes to exclusive rights there, that's all it is. That's all it is for the Cowboys there. Brian Price, excuse me. So he'll be back if the Cowboys want him back, and I'm sure they will, at the very least, as another depth option on that defensive line.
Let's move to linebacker now. This is a key position for the Cowboys. Some age there, and then obviously Sean Lee in terms of injuries.
Yeah. Jalen
Smith continued to improve, but let's talk about Anthony Hitchens. Is he going to be back?
This is going to be a tough one because he's going to get he's going to get starter money on the open market. He's going to get $4 or $5 million per year, I think, at the very least. And if you're the Cowboys, do you want to invest that much in a linebacker who is good but not great? I don't know if that's what the Cowboys want to do, and he could end up going higher and higher in terms of his salary. You have Sean Lee, you have Jalen Smith. Those are your two starters, more or less, when the Cowboys typically don't use three linebackers all that much. So I think when it comes to Anthony Hitchens, there's a real chance he's not back, and if he's not, linebacker is a big need because there is no depth right now. So I would not be surprised if you see the Cowboys, Brett, add multiple linebackers in the draft, both early and later on.
Some comments coming through. Battle cry for Roquan Smith, the Georgia Bulldog, getting ready to play in a national championship.
Would be great. I don't think he'll last to 19. And I don't think, because the Cowboys didn't lose to the Eagles, I don't know if you're going to see them try and trade up and get him.
Tom, we're not going to let you rant about whether or not the Cowboys should have tanked against the Eagles. You always beat the Eagles. Let's go back to linebacker free agent Kyle Wilber.
He is almost an exclusive special teams guy. He's had a very strange career. He was originally drafted to fit in that 3-4 scheme for the Cowboys, and they kind of moved him into the backup strong side position. He's a special teams guy. He might come back, but he is easily replaceable, I believe.
Let's go into the portion of free agents.
Yeah.
That's Justin Marsh-Lillard.
The next three kind of are who, I think, to an extent. This is another exclusive rights free agent guy. Only played special teams. The Cowboys added him late this year. Had a handful of tackles, excuse me.
Whoa.
I merged tackles and stats into tax, I guess.
Tax.
Yeah,
tackle
tax.
stats. There it
tackle
is.
Stats.
We'll start using that one.
New word. Did that on purpose. So, whatever if he comes back. He'll probably be a guy that gets carried through the year and maybe not makes the final roster.
You see the youth in the secondary when your only free agent has been Ben Wickery.
And I don't really care what happens to him. I still want to see Marquez White. He was added to the futures contract because he was on practice squad all year. This is a guy the Cowboys gave up a 6th-round pick for next year to play and essentially be a special teams and backup guy, which I don't know if I like giving up a 6th-round pick for, but that's okay.
last unrestricted free agent is on the special teams unit, and that's LP LaDucia.
Yeah, the long snapper who has literally been perfect. He doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, no one knows his name, and that's a good thing, because if you know your long snapper's name, probably means he's making mistakes. If he still wants to play at age 37, bring him back. Why not at that point? Because he's been fantastic.